chapter is Catelyn. Ned and the girls were 8 days gone when Mr. Lewin came to her one night in Bran's sick room, carrying a reading lamp and the books of account. "It's past time that we reviewed the figures, my lady," he said. "You'll want to know how much this royal visit has cost us." Caitlin looked at Bran. Sorry, Catelyn. This is going to happen frequently throughout. It's Catelyn, it's spelled Caitlin to me. I'll try. I've been telling myself Catelyn, but it'll be what it'll be. I looked at Bran in the sick bed and brushed his hair back off his forehead. It had grown very long, she realised. She would have to cut it soon. "I've no need to look at figures, Mr. Lewin," she told him, never taking her eyes from Bran. "I know what the visit cost us. Take the books away." "My lady, the king's party had healthy appetites. We must replenish the stores before—" She cut him off. "I said, take the books away. The steward will attend to our needs." "We have no steward," Mr. Lewin reminded her. Like a little grey rat, she thought, he would not let go. Poole went south to establish Lord Eddard's household at King's Landing. Catelyn nodded absently. "Oh yes, I remember." Bran looked so pale. She wondered whether they might move his bed under the window so he could get the morning sun. Mr. Lewin set the lamp in a niche by the door and fiddled with its wick. "There are several appointments that require your immediate attention, my lady. Besides, beside the steward, we need a captain of the guard to fill Jory's place, a new master of horse." Her eyes snapped around and found him. A master of horse? Her voice was a whip. The maester was shaken. "Yes, my lady. Holland rode south with Lord Eddard, so—" "My son lies here, broken and dying, Lewin, and you wish to discuss a new master of horse? Do you think I care what happens to the stables? Do you think it matters to me one whit? I would gladly butcher every horse in Winterfell with my own hands, if it would open Bran's eyes. Do you understand that? Do you?" He bowed his head. "Yes, my lady, but the appointments—" "I'll make the appointments," Robb said. Catelyn had not heard him enter, but there he stood in the doorway, looking at her. She had been shouting, she realised with a sudden flush of shame. What had happened to her? She was so tired, and her head hurt all the same. Mr. Lewin looked from Catelyn to her son. "I have prepared a list of those we might wish to consider for the vacant offices," he said, offering Robb a paper plucked from his sleeve. Her son glanced at the names. He had come from outside, Catelyn saw. His cheeks were red from the cold, his hair shaggy and wind-blown. "Good men," he said. "We'll talk to them tomorrow." He handed back the list of names. "Very good, my lord." The paper vanished into his sleeve. "Leave us now," Robb said. Mr. Lewin bowed and departed. Robb closed the door behind him and turned to her. He was wearing a sword, she saw. "Mother, what were you doing?" Catelyn had always thought Robb looked like her, like Bran and Rickon and Sansa. He had the tully colouring, the auburn hair, and the blue eyes. Yet now, for the first time, she saw something of Eddard's dark in his face, something stern and hard as the north. "What am I doing?" she echoed, puzzled. "How on earth can you ask that? What do you imagine I'm doing? I'm taking care of your brother. I'm taking care of Bran." "Is that what you call it? You haven't left this room since Bran was hurt. You didn't even come to the gate when father and the girls went south." "I said my farewells to them here, and watched them ride out from that window." She had begged Ned not to go. Not now. Not after what had happened. Everything had changed now. Couldn't he see that? It was no use. He had no choice. He had told her, and then he left, choosing. "I can't leave him, even for a moment. Not even any moment when any moment could be his last. I have to be here with him. If She took her son's limp hand, sliding his fingers into her own. He was so frail and thin, with no strength in his hand, but she could still feel the warmth of his life in his skin. Rob's voice softened. He's not going to die, Mother. Mr. Lewin says the time of greatest danger is past. And what if Mr. Lewin is wrong? What if Bran needs me and I'm not here? Rickon needs you, Rob said sharply. He's only 3. He doesn't understand what's happening. He thinks everyone has deserted him, so he follows me around all day, clutching my leg and crying. I don't know what to do with him. He paused a moment, chewing on his lower lip the way he'd done when he was little. Mother, I need you too. I'm trying, but I can't do this all by myself. His voice broke with sudden emotion, and Catelyn remembered that he was only 14. She wanted to get up and go to him, but Bran was still holding her hand, and she could not move. Outside the tower, a wolf began to howl. Catelyn trembled just for a second. Bran's. Rob opened the window and let the night air into the stuffy tower room. The howling grew louder. It was a cold and lonely sound, full of melancholy and despair. Don't, she told him. Bran needs to stay warm. He needs to hear them sing, Rob said. Somewhere out there in Winterfell, a second wolf began to howl in chorus with the first, then a third, closer. Shaggy Dog and Grey Wind, Rob said as their voices rose and fell together. You can tell them apart if you listen close. Catelyn was shaking. It was the grief, the cold, the howl of the dire wolves. Night after night, the howling and the cold wind, and the grey, empty castle. On and on it went, never changing, and her boy lay there broken, the sweetest of her children, the gentlest. Bran, he loved to laugh and climb and dreamt of knighthood, all gone. She would never hear him laugh again. Sobbing, she pulled her hands free of his and covered her ears against those terrible howls. Make them stop, she cried. I can't stand it. Make them stop. Make them stop. Kill them if you must. Just make them stop. She didn't remember falling to the floor, but there she was, and Rob was lifting her, holding her in strong arms. Don't be afraid, Mother. They would never hurt him. He helped her to her narrow bed in the corner of the sick room. Close your eyes, he said gently. Rest in the corner of the sick room. Close your eyes. I can't, she wept. Gods forgive me, Rob. I can't. What if he dies while I'm asleep? What if he dies? The wolves were still howling. She screamed and held her ears again. Oh, gods, close that window. If you swear to me you'll sleep. Rob went to the window, but as he reached for the shutters, another sound was added to the mournful howling of the dire wolves. Dogs, he said, listening. All the dogs are barking. They've never done that before. Catelyn heard his breath catch in his throat. When she looked up, his face was pale in the lamplight. Fire, he whispered. Fire, she thought, and then, Bran. Help me, she said urgently, sitting up. Help me with Bran. Rob didn't seem to hear. The library tower's on fire, he said. Catelyn could see the flickering reddish light through the open window now. She sagged with relief. Bran was safe. The library was across the bailey. There was no way the fire could reach them from here. Thank the gods, she whispered. Rob looked at her as if she'd gone mad. Mother, stay here. I'll come back as soon as the fire's out. He ran then. She heard him shout to the guards outside the room, heard them descending together in a wild rush, taking the stairs 2 and 3 at a time. Outside there were shouts of fire in the yard, screams, running footsteps, the whinny frightened horses, or the whinny of frightened horses, and the frantic barking of the castle dogs. The howling was gone, she realised as she listened to the cacophony. The direwolves had fallen silent. Catelyn said a silent prayer of thanks to the 7 faces of God as she went to the window. Across the bailey, long tongues of flame shot out from the windows of the library. She watched the smoke rise into the sky and thought sadly of the books that the Starks had gathered over the centuries. Then she closed the shutters. Thought I could get away with that one, but no, it was shutters. When she turned around away from the window, the man was uh, the man was in the room with her. You weren't supposed to be here, he muttered sourly. No one was supposed to be here. He was a small, dirty man in filthy brown clothing, and he stank of horses. Catelyn knew all the men who worked in their stables, and he was none of them. He was gaunt, with limp blonde hair and pale eyes deep sunk in his bony face, and there was a dagger in his hand. Caitlin looked at the knife and then at Bran. No, she said, the word stuck in her throat, the merest whisper. He must have heard her. It's a mercy, he said. He's dead already. No, Catelyn said, louder now. She'd found her voice again. No, you can't. She spun back around toward the window to scream for help, but the man moved faster than she would have believed. One hand clamped down over her mouth and yanked her head back. The other brought the dagger up to her windpipe. The stench of him was overwhelming. She reached up with both hands and grabbed the blade with all her strength, pulling it away from her throat. She heard him cursing into her ear. Her fingers were slippery with blood, but she would not let go of the dagger. The hand over her mouth clenched more tightly, shutting off her air. Catelyn twisted her head to the side and managed to get a piece of his flesh between her teeth. She bit down hard onto his palm. The man grunted in pain. She ground her teeth together and tore at him, and all of a sudden he let go. The taste of blood filled her mouth. She sucked in air and screamed, and he grabbed her hair and pulled her away from him. She stumbled and went down, and then he was standing over her, breathing hard, shaking. The dagger was still clutched tightly in his right hand, slick with blood. You weren't supposed to be here, he repeated stupidly. Catelyn saw the shadow slip through the open door behind him. There was a low rumble, less than a snarl, the merest whisper of a threat. But he must have heard something, because he started to turn just as the wolf made its leap. They went down together, half sprawled over Catelyn where she fell. The wolf had him under the jaw. The man's shriek lasted less than a second before the beast wrenched back its head, taking out half his throat. His warm, his blood felt like warm rain as it sprayed across her face. The wolf was looking at her. His jaws were red and wet, and its eyes glowed golden in the dark room. It was Bran's wolf, she realized. Of course it was. Thank you, Catelyn whispered, her voice faint and tiny. She lifted her hand, trembling. The wolf padded closer, sniffed at her fingers, and then licked at the blood with its wet, rough tongue. When it cleaned all the blood off her hand, it turned away silently and jumped up on Bran's bed and lay down beside him. Catelyn began to laugh hysterically. That was the way they found them, when Robb and Maester Luwin and Sir Roderick burst in with half the guards in Winterfell. When the laughter finally died in her throat, they wrapped her in warm blankets and led her back to the great keep, to her own chambers. Old Nan undressed her and helped her into a scalding hot bath, and washed the blood off her uh, off her with a soft cloth. Afterward, Maester Luwin arrived to dress her wounds. The cuts on her fingers went deep, almost to the bone, and her scalp was raw and bleeding, where he'd pulled out a handful of hair. The maester told her the pain was just starting now, and gave her milk of poppy to help her sleep. Finally, she closed her eyes. When she opened again, they had told her she had slept for 4 days. Catelyn nodded and sat up in bed. It all seemed like a nightmare to her now. Everything since Bran's fall, a terrible dream of blood and grief, but she had pain in her hands to remind her that it was real. She felt weak and light-headed, yet strangely resolute, as if a great weight had been lifted from her. Bring me some bread and honey, she told the servants, and take word to Maester Luwin that my bandages want changing. They looked at her in surprise and then ran off to do her bidding. Catelyn remembered the way that she had been before, and she was ashamed. She'd let them all down, her children, her husband, her house. It would not happen again. She would show these northerners how strong Tully of Riverrun could be. Rob arrived before her food. Roderick Cassile came with him, and her husband's ward, Theon Greyjoy, and, lastly, Hallis Mullen, a muscular guardsman with a square brown beard. He was new captain of the guard, Rob said. Her son was dressed in boiled leather and ringmail, she saw. A sword hung at his waist. Who was he? Catelyn asked them. No one knows his name, Halis Mullen told her. He was no man of Winterfell, milady, but some says they've seen him here about the castle last few weeks. One of the king's men, then, she said, or one of the Lannisters. He could have waited behind while the others left. Maybe, Hal had said. With all the strangers filling up Winterfell of late, there's no way of saying who he belonged to. He'd been hiding in your stables, Greyjoy said. You could smell it on him. And how did he go unnoticed? She said sharply. Halis Mullen looked abashed. Between the horses Lord Eddard took south, and them we sent north to the night's watch. The stalls were half empty. There was no great trick to hide from the stable boys. Could be Hodor saw him. The talk is that the boy's been acting queer, but simple as he is. Hal shook his head. We found where he's been sleeping, Rob put in. He had 90 silver stags in a leather bag buried beneath the straw. It's good to know my son's life was not sold cheaply, Catelyn said bitterly. Hillis Mullen looked at her confused. Begging your grace, milady, you saying he was out to kill your boy? Greyjoy was doubtful. That's madness. He came for Bran, Catelyn said. He kept muttering about how I wasn't supposed to be there. He set the library on fire, thinking I would rush out to put it out, taking any guards with me. If I hadn't been half mad with grief, it would have worked. Why would anyone want to kill Bran? Rob said. Gods, he's only a little boy, helpless, sleeping. Catelyn gave her firstborn a challenging look. If you are to rule in the north, you must think these things through, Rob. Answer your own question. Why would anyone want to kill a sleeping child? Before he could answer, the servant returned with a plate of food, fresh from the kitchen. There was more than she'd asked for. Hot bread, butter and honey, blackberry preserves, a rasher of bacon, a soft-boiled egg, a wedge of cheese, a pot of mint tea, and with it came Maester Lewin. How is my son, Maester? Caitlin looked at all the food and found she had no appetite. Maester Lewin lowered his eyes. Unchanged, my lady. It was the reply she had expected, no more, no less. Her hands throbbed with pain, as if the blade were still in her, cutting deep. She sent the servant away and looked back to Rob. Do you have the answer yet? Someone is afraid Bran might wake up, Rob said. Afraid of what he might say or do. Afraid of something he knows. Catelyn was proud of him. Very good. She turned to the new captain of the guard. We must keep Bran safe. If there was one killer, there could be others. How many guards do you want, milady? Hals asked. So long as Lord Eddard is away, my son is master of Winterfell, she said. Rob stood a little taller. Put one man in the sick room, night and day, one outside the door, two at the bottom of the stairs. No one sees Bran without my warrant or my mother's. As you say, my lord. Do it now, Catelyn suggested. And let his wolf stay in the room with him, Rob added. Yes, Catelyn said, and then again, yes. Hallis Mullen bowed and left the room. Lady Stark, Sir Roderick said when the guardsman had gone. Did you chance to notice the dagger the killer used? The circumstances did not allow me to examine it closely, but I can vouch for its edge, Catelyn replied with a dry smile. Why do you ask? We found the knife still in the villain's grasp. It seemed to me that it was an altogether too fine a weapon for such a man. I looked at it long and hard. The blade is Valyrian steel, the hilt dragon bone. A weapon like that has no business being in the hands such as him. Someone gave it to him. Catelyn nodded thoughtful. Robb, close the door. He looked at her strangely, but did as she told him. What I'm about to tell you must not leave this room, she told them. I want your oaths on that. Even if part of what I suspect is true, Ned and my girls have ridden into deadly danger, and a word in the wrong ears could mean their lives. Lord Eddard is a second father to me, said Theon Greyjoy. I do so swear. You have my oath, Maester Luwin said. And mine, my lady, echoed Sir Roderick. She looked at her son. And you, Robb? He nodded his consent. My sister Lisa believes the Lannisters murdered her husband, Lord Arryn, the Hand of the King, Catelyn told him. It comes to me that Jaime Lannister did not join the hunt that day that Bran fell. He remained here in the castle. The room was deathly quiet. I do not think Bran fell from that tower, she said into the stillness. I think he was thrown. The shock was plain on their faces. My lady, that's a monstrous suggestion, Sir Roderick Cassale said. Even the Kingslayer would flinch at the murder of an innocent child. Oh, would he? Theon Greyjoy asked. I wonder. There is no limit to Lannister pride or Lannister ambition, Catelyn said. The boy had always been sure-handed in the past, Maester Luwin said thoughtfully. He knew every stone in Winterfell. Gods, Robb swore, his young face dark with anger. If this is true, he'll pay for it. He drew his sword and waved it in the air. I'll kill him myself. Sir Roderick bristled at him. Put that away. The Lannisters are 100 leagues away. Never draw your sword unless you mean to use it. How many times must I tell you that, foolish boy? Abashed, Robb sheathed his sword, suddenly a child again. Catelyn said to Sir Roderick, I see my son is wearing steel now. The old master-at-arms said, I thought it was time. Robb looked at her anxiously. Past time, she said. Winterfell may have need of all its swords soon, and they had best not be made of wood. Theon Greyjoy put his hand on the hilt of his blade and said, My lady, if it comes to that, my house owes yours a great debt. Maester Luwin pulled at his chain collar, where it chafed against his neck. All we have is conjecture. This is the Queen's beloved brother we are meant to accuse. She will not take this kindly. We must have proof, or forever keep silent. Your proof is in the dagger, Sir Roderick said. A fine blade like that will not have gone unnoticed. There was only one place to find the truth of it, Catelyn realised. Someone must go to King's Landing. I'll go, Robb said. No, she told him. Your place is here. There must always be a Stark in Winterfell. She looked at Sir Roderick with his great white whiskers, at Maester Luwin with his grey robes, and young Greyjoy, lean and dark and impetuous. Who to send? Who would be believed? Then she knew. Catelyn struggled to push back the blankets, her bandaged fingers as stiff and unyielding as stone. She climbed out of bed. I must go myself. My lady, said Maester Luwin, is that wise? Surely the Lannisters would greet your arrival with suspicion. What about Bran? Robb asked. The poor boy looked utterly confused now. You can't mean to leave him. I've done everything I can for Bran, she said, laying a wounded hand on his arm. His life is in the hands of the gods and Maester Luwin. As you have reminded me yourself, Robb, I have other children to think of now. You'll need a strong escort, my lady, Theon said. I'll send Hal with a squad of guardsmen, Robb said. No, Catelyn said. A large party attracts unwelcome attention. I would not have the Lannisters know I'm coming. Sir Roderick protested. My lady, let me accompany you at least. The King's Road can be perilous for a woman alone. I will not be taking the King's Road, Catelyn replied. She thought for a moment, and then nodded her consent. 2 riders can move as fast as one. and a good deal faster than a long column burdened by wagons and wheelhouses. I will welcome your company, Sir Roderick. We will follow the White Knife down to the sea, and hire a ship at White Harbour. Strong horses and brisk wind should bring us to King's Landing well ahead of Ned and the Lannisters, and then, she thought, we shall see what we shall see. And that's the end of that chapter. Thank you for listening.